What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. We are going to go into the most common mistakes slash the most important, simple things you can do each and every game to ensure your success. Obviously, there's going to be other skilled players, so you can't win them all, but you can guarantee win a lot more with some simple fixes to your game. So first, how do you need to go into each and every game? 4-2-1-3 is the most dominant setup. I, like many of you, wanted something else to be able to be used, right? It gets boring only using one setup, especially if you feel kind of forced, because it's the way you have to play to get the best runs, to get the best movement, considering the fact that's not how real football works, right? Unfortunately, I tried the 4-1-4-1, tried the 4-3-2-1, and you can have fun in those setups without a doubt, but to be the most competitive, if you're going out there to win and you want your players in the best positions on the pitch to make things happen offensively, to stay tight and win the ball defensively, it's the 4-2-1-3. Now, you don't just want the 4-2-1-3 though. I have 3 simple tactical setups that I'm going to go through with you. You start off with the 4-2-1-3 like so. If you want to pause, you can take the code, but it's just your most simple 4-2-1-3 setup. Counter is the build-up style. Balanced at 50 is how I start depth-wise. Goalkeeper balanced, defender, fullback balanced on each side for the wingbacks. Center defensive mids, this is where it can vary a bit. For me, I like one holding defensive midfielder. I always want one player sitting in front of my back four no matter what. They can still get involved with the build-up, and even you can make manual plays where you send them up the field sometimes if you want. But typically speaking, their natural position is sitting in front of those back four. Your other player can either be box crasher or deep lying playmaker build-up. If you want more defensive, you could go deep lying playmaker defend. However, deep lying playmaker build-up, in this case I have Williams, who's extremely underrated, right? She's akin to like Patry, who's very popular. Williams, extremely cheap. If you didn't get her by any chance, but she was a popular player pick from the hero packs, but if you didn't get her from that, like I did, go out and purchase her. She's so cheap and she's a monster. Just if you look at her stats, we'll look at them in a second, you'll see why. But set her up as a deep line playmaker build up, or you can make play her as a box crasher, even though she doesn't have it in the plus or plus role, and that will be fine. Box crasher is a little more attacking. She'll make runs in between your left wing, which for me is Salma, and your striker, which for me is Agamang, right? Get up to the attacking four. Rogers, playmaker plus, he is brilliant. Honestly, go for, if your player has a plus, go for what that is. Meaning, like I had Goulier, he was a classic 10 plus. His movement in there was brilliant. It all varies just a little. Like the shadow striker would be my typical go-to because I like that run in behind on either side of Agamang, but Rogers will still make those runs, and so will Goulier. It's just in a playmaker or classic 10 role, they're more often than not going to be posted up, looking for the ball at their feet, and then making the runs, whereas the shadow striker is always looking forward to get in, along with the striker. And the thing with that is, though, sometimes you're looking for an outlet pass or a wall pass, and with shadow striker, you don't always get that. So playmaker and classic 10 do have their bonuses, right? On the outsides, go inside forward. You can go winger if you like, if your player has, for instance, a plus, or even wide playmaker is even better than winger, right? Unless maybe you like your player always staying all the way out wide, and then once you play them the ball, or maybe manually you run them in, then you could go with winger. Wide playmaker, it's similar to winger, it's just more often than with winger, the players will cut inside. With winger, you have to manually do it, right? Inside forward, they're always looking to cut in. And then, of course, it's striker. If you can go in or advance forward. If your player has poacher, plus or plus, not advance forward, you can utilize that. Advance forward, I just like the AI movement a little more. But to be honest with you, with the way FC26 and really all the recent FCs work, in the attack all around, and especially with your striker, a lot of times you're going to have to manually adjust the runs anyway, because it's just the movement just isn't advanced enough to keep up with the most skilled gameplay if you want to create more chances, right? If you just go with, if you remove, for instance, player lock or the manual run ability, there would be a lot less chances created. Not to mention the fact I just released a video on this, but a skilled defender is going to be able to read the patterns of the AI movement. That's why you have to mix it up. But this is a good way to start, and the reason why the 4-2-1-3 is best for this over the 4-1-4-1 or even the 4-2-3-1 wide or narrow is because the positioning that the players start from. It just so happens that obviously a 4-back with 2 defensive midfielders, that's the best way you can defend in the game, right? You can still get burned this way. You have to have manual skill still, even if you're just controlling your CDMs, because the jockeying's not good enough, so it's hard to control your center backs. I have the 2 best in the game, Jones and Henard. They're the 2 best, and even with their shiftiness, which is better than any of the men's center backs, any of the high-price center backs, Maldini's, your whoever, Jones and Henard are the best. And you could put like Koundé up there. You could put Cordoba up there this year, right? I take Cordoba over any other male center back because of that shiftiness needed. Since the dribbling so much more responsive, the jockeying got buffed, but not enough. So you are almost forced to use your defensive mids in those gaps and to come back and stop potential goals. That's why having CDMs, 2 of them instead of CMs, is always going to be the go-to. Then the attack in a 4-2-3-1 wide or a 4-2-3-1 narrow even, either the wing mids are too wide to start and don't cut in fast enough to stay connected to your striker, or in the 4-2-3-1 narrow with cams, the cams don't play, they almost play too much back, right? They don't come, even if you have them at shadow striker, the run making and the positioning just is a little off, right? Now, some players like that. Some players like that positioning better with the way they play, but the positioning with the attackers in the 4-2-1-3 with these wingers playing in the seams and close enough to connect to the striker and cam, but far enough away to where they can still dominate down the wings if and when you need them to, and connect with the defensive mid, so there's triangles all over. It's just the positioning. Bottom line, that's what makes the 4-2-1-3 the best. Then defensively, that's where I go 4-2-3-1 wide, because I make the 2 wingers into wide midfielders, so they come back, wide midfielder defend. Rogers is under playmaker build-up, which is the most defensive you can do for a playmaker, and then false 9, right? So my striker, all 11 players, obviously the keeper and the 10 field players, are thinking defensive. This is when you're trying to hold a goal lead or whatever it is, and your opponent's putting pressure tactics on or whatnot. You go build-up style short passing with a balanced 50 line. This is just to keep you compact, right? So you can try to keep your opponent off the board. Then you got what I call the nuke setup. It's just simply my original go-to at the 4-2-1-3, only I go with same build-up style counter, defensive approach is the only change, and it's 91. The reason why, that triggers the pressure tactics, similar to the former constant pressure back in the day. And this is when either there's bad gameplay and your player movement's suffering from it, because yes, AI movement suffers too whenever there's laggy, delayed, unresponsive gameplay, or when you need a goal, you need to put the pressure on your opponent to get the ball, to try to get the ball in the net. So nuke, or offensive, or attack, whatever you want to call it. Defensive and OGFC is just what we start with, right? These are just the names I have for them. There's this code. You've already had time to put that, and then you can pause it now if you want this code. Very simple changes, though, if you don't want to take the time to put that code in. Very easy to understand. So now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this champs game against a skilled opponent, and let me show you how I was able to pick him apart. So first things first, right? My opponent starts with the ball. I didn't do it this game, and it could have costed me here, so you have to be ready to go mentally when you come into these games, because these little mistakes can cost you. Every time your opponent has the ball in the kickoff, do an offside trap right off the bat. Pull that line up, because what it does is it then pushes your defensive mids up. It then pushes your whole team into the opponent who's got a ton of gaps right off the bat. If a skilled player gets through to the danger zone, let's call it, where they have a couple passes or even just one pass away from getting in on goal, you're in trouble because your team's spread out. They're not close enough together to defend, so it can really hurt you. And you see early on, my opponent had me spread out, but I did not panic. I simply took Steffi Jones, my center back, and manually marked that pass. Now, if the opponent kept driving in, I would have had to make a choice to either stay with the pass or go after the attacker, and I would have had to eventually go after it so he couldn't just come in and finesse it to the far corner. But we avoid the early pressure, which is going to come from kickoffs. That's just part of this year's game. If you do an offside trap, if you're clicked in, ready to go, right, you should be okay. I strongly suggest getting a warm-up game in, maybe in squad battles. If you don't mind using your warm-up game in rivals, you could do that. But the game's so fast-paced, and you better believe these opponents, especially those who have been playing champs games, they're going to be ready to go. They're going to be come out firing. So as you see the game get going, you're seeing me warm up as well. And this is where I say thank goodness for the women's center backs this year, because those little reactions that you see, like that one from Steffi Jones there, that is something the men's center backs don't do. They get turned around and almost look like they don't know what's going on, and your opponent can get in. All the women's center backs I've used, even the free card, the American Morgan that we got, Steffi Jones, who I have now in an art, are the best at it and the best center backs in the game, honestly. But when they get kind of turned around or they're not in the best position, they're still going to get their foot out. They're still going to defend, right? And I thought maybe it was play styles at first, and maybe Anticipate Plus does have something to do with it. But I just noticed for whatever reason when the men get kind of turned around, there's no animations to correct their positioning, and they just end up looking like they don't know what they're doing. They get burned. So you see there, making a little extra push with Agumeng, because she's an absolute beast, to try to get around and get a finesse shot. But speaking of Agumeng, as we watch the game continue on, the best striker potentially in the game, and she was a free card, right? Not the most glitzy or glamorous stats or anything like that, but she's 5'7", and she's a lengthy striker, right? And because of this, she's an absolute speed demon, but she's also great on the ball. And even though she has 3-star weak foot, has phenomenal finishing. If you can, put Game Changer Plus on her. I got the Game Changer Plus evolution rewarded to me somewhere along the line. You guys will know where that was, probably better than me. But when I got it, I put that on her, and now that 3-star weak foot she's more dangerous, right? Because instead of shooting with her weak foot, sometimes it will trigger that Travella shot. But she's just an absolute beast. She's a demon up there, and I don't see her leaving my team in a long time. I had Pichon before, and I had Sophia Wilson before that. And it really is Pichon at the top as far as best strikers, and you see that glitchy nonsense where my opponent was able to run through my defender, and that just... I was fortunate not to give up a goal there. If I did, it would have been unearned. And it just, unfortunately, sometimes that's the nonsense you have to deal with the terrible servers. And even though this gameplay overall is pretty good, that just shows you kind of the glitchy nonsense you have to deal with sometimes. But Pichon, amazing, but she's about 400K now, right? I made a ton of coins off her. I bought her for 300. People since woke up to how good she was. She's around 450. She might have dropped since then, or she might have raised. I have to see. But either way, great striker. And then behind that, I would put Sophia Wilson, and right behind that, I would put Agumeng. But really, it's not enough to spend 400K when you have a free striker. As you see, our first goal there, and I want to break this down for you. So first off, you see, I commit with my right back. That's Charles, another free card who's an absolute beast, and that's what gets me the opportunity to start this attack in the first place. Now look, it's just a two-player attack. Williams to my striker, Agumeng, who I call to the ball. Then I send Williams on a run. She's a deep line playmaker, but I send her on a box crasher type of run. Agumeng then plays her right in front of the center back, which I did on purpose because I knew that defender, being a male center back, just the way it is, was going to be stuck in the mud. And sure enough, play to her feet, just a little slight cut. And next thing you know, I'm in on goal. Williams gets a finish. So that's where, if I had box crasher on, Williams would have naturally made that. Despite not having a plus or plus, right? She still would have made that run. I had to manually trigger it there since I have her on deep line playmakers. So you absolutely can and absolutely should be manually triggering runs. As you see, my opponent almost gets a goal off the kickoff glitch, but great save by Khan, who's been a godsend, by the way. He's an absolute monster, and just the fact that I never have to worry about a keeper is nice. I'm not saying there's not other amazing icons that you could have got, like Sissy comes to mind, R9 comes to mind, but Khan is a great goalkeeper. People who say he's not, they're just giving too many shots, and of course every goalie's going to give up, certain goals. But let's go ahead and break down our second goal here, and I want you to notice the difference between me and my opponent. Going all the way back to the corner kick for my opponent. Defensively, I'm switching my players and tweaking their positioning, moving them in front of passing lanes, trying to block potential dribbling lanes. I'm moving and switching my defenders a lot more than my opponent. That's the thing you'll notice defensively. Offensively, I'm manually triggering a lot more runs, and I have a lot more player lock going on. Essentially, I'm always making runs with my players, always moving them, coming to, making diagonals, whatever it is. Even if I don't end up playing that player the ball, I'm constantly looking for options, whereas my opponent will get to dribbling up the pitch, and all he's doing is looking for what his AI is doing. You cannot do that. You will not be successful. It's way too easy to defend, right? And the players just don't make good enough runs. You see there, I trigger my holding mid and then trigger my attacking mid. Now, I was a bit lucky with the bounce I got, but that was the intended path for the ball. It just hit a couple defenders' feet along the way. So absolutely a skilled goal that I created, but the only difference is the ball didn't cleanly go through to Rogers. It took a couple bounces to get to its final destination. And notice on that goal there was no player lock. I simply triggered Manu from the holding midfield position into a run forward, played him the ball, and then triggered my attacking mid playmaker Rogers onto a forward run and played him a ball through. Then Rogers, with a great finish after the ball, hit a couple defenders that trying to block it, right? So a beautiful manually created goal. So that's two manually created goals versus my opponent, who's had some chances, but for the most part, he's getting stopped because I am more active. I am controlling my defense. I am controlling my runs. I'm not letting the AI do everything and just trying to run in a straight line and then let my AI hopefully get open, right? You can't leave it to that. You will get burned every time. I cannot stress that enough. And that's the biggest difference in this game. As you see me working around here, the same thing with that goal, right? Going all the way back to the offsides for my opponent. So working the ball from my keeper all the way up. This is literally the play that led to that goal. And so far, no manual movement. This just showcases why the 4-2-1-3 is the best setup, because the natural positioning for the players is just the most dangerous. There's triangles everywhere, and just right off the bat, there's dangerous runs that are available to you. But you just have to do that final little tweak, right? You see there, I went for something with Rogers that could have been beautiful. I didn't play a good enough chip through as Rogers was making his run, but you have to have the confidence to try those things, because they will go off, and when they do, you will get important goals. And a missed clearance from my opponent gets me the ball back. Salma gets the ball at her feet into Manu, who goes into Agamang's feet, and guess what? A male center back. Any male center back that isn't Cordoba or Koundé, and even them in that scenario with no help, you can cook them. I have one of the best strikers in the game in Agamang. Just a quick little shimmy, and I finesse the ball into the top corner, 3-0. You see here, he had no chance. I act like I'm going to drive through that hole. Quick little cut with L1 held, and boom, finesse in the corner. Too easy, 3-0, and it all goes back to just two simple concepts, one defensively, one offensively. And those concepts are, first, defensively, constantly left stick switching your players. You're constantly looking for passing lanes to block or dribbling lanes to block, constantly using and timing correctly your second man press while you're doing it, right? But the most important part, even if you leave out second man press, which just helps tighten up the defenders on their marks, the two closest to the player that you're controlling, that is. But even if you leave that out, it's just constant left stick switching defenders, moving them into proper places to then win the ball. And once you get good at this, you will win the ball. Your opponent won't know what to do. They'll feel like they have no open passing lanes. They'll start panicking and trying to dribble only. And you simply shut them down there or get in those passing lanes and they'll play the ball to you half the time, right? Secondly, on offense, you're constantly triggering runs, even if you don't use those runs. Manually triggering them, calling players to, sending them straight forward, diagonal, and using player lock. Yes, many players do not like it. I understand that, but until the run making is more advanced, you must get good at player lock. If you don't, you will be missing out. You will actually see in games as your vision gets better looking for attacking options. You will see where the players you have should be making runs that they aren't. That's where player lock can assure you that you get those runs made so you can play the ball and create chances to score goals. It's as simple as that. You just have to get good at those two simple concepts. Left stick switching defensively and run making offensively, which you can separate into two different ways to make runs on the offense. L1R1, right? Send players call to, and player lock. Once you get those things down, you are guaranteed to have so much more success because you're going to not only give up less goals, you're going to score a lot more goals. That's the formula to win games, right? Do not rely on your AI on offense. Do not rely on your AI on defense. Put in the work. That's where the skill gap comes in. Yes, the gameplay being terrible sometimes is going to affect the results. There's nothing you can do there. Control what you can control, and unfortunately, leave the rest into EA Sports to hopefully one day fix. We might grow old. We might die before we get good servers or a better game engine or whatever causes inconsistent gameplay. But until then, as long as you're playing this game, you can be assured to have success if you work on those two things. If this video is helpful, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And good luck out on the pitch. I'll see you next time. Peace out.